this video I want to give you an overview of an upcoming Kickstarter game called Hostage Negotiator. This is primarily a card game. There's going to be mechanisms in here that you'll think feels like a deck builder, but it's not a deck builder. Perhaps it's a new genre, but there's also dice. And what I like about this game is it has a great tempo, it has a good mixture of luck and strategy, and all this bad luck or good luck can be influenced or mitigated by your card play. You're a hostage negotiator. We have a crazed abductor who's managed to hold hostage a varying number of hostages. Your role is to use your cards, these conversation cards, to talk this abductor into releasing hostages and avoid killing hostages. We have these terror cards which drive the game along, and these pivotal events which happen at the climax of the game. We have demands that each abductor will be placing on you that you can either fulfill in order to win some favour and get on the good side of the abductor, but of course there's going to be a cost associated with giving in to the abductor's demands. And the other thing I should tell you is that this is a solitaire game. I'm going to walk you through a quick setup and explain how the game is played, so give you a little demonstration of gameplay, and then you can decide whether you think, as a solitaire player, will find Hostage Negotiator as a game for you. I highly recommend it. I really like this one. I feel the mechanisms are full of originality. I like the theme, and like I say, I like the pace of the game as well. This is called the tableau. This is where the measure of the current state of the game is portrayed. This is what we call the hostage pool. This is where we place these hostages, these yellow cubes here. This is a prototype I've got from the designer, so what the final components will look like, you'll have to keep an eye on the Kickstarter page and see what ends up at retail. So these are the hostages, and these hostages can either get killed, they move down to this area, or saved, and they go up to this area. If more than half of the hostages have been killed, then you immediately lose the game. Once there are no hostages left in the hostage pool, the game ends, and if you've rescued at least half of the hostages and the abductor has been eliminated or captured, then you win the game. These are the abductors. We'll quickly finish up setting up, and then I'll explain to you how you can rescue hostages, how hostages get killed, and how you can capture this abductor. Alright, so in the prototype I've got here, there's 3 different abductors. We've got Arcane, Masua, Edward Quinn, Donna Scarborough, and each of these has a little backstory to tell you why they've undertaken this hostage situation. Now, each of these cards will have a different number of hostages. Arcane is a good starting one for your first game. Arcane has 7 hostages, so does Edward. Donna, she has 12, so there's a lot more here. So for Arcane, we need to rescue at least 4 hostages to be in a position to win the game. Okay, so we'll put 7 for the start of the game in this hostage pool. Now remember, I said in addition to saving the hostages, you need to either capture or eliminate the abductor. Capturing him alive is the best way. You can take him down, and there are some conversation cards that means you can, send in your snipers or take this guy out. If you do, that's fine if there's no hostages left, okay, fair game. But if there's hostages left, you haven't rescued them all, and you eliminate the abductor, then he has a second in command. And we start with the second in command card below the abductor. So you don't really want to eliminate this guy until you're sure about the hostages being secure, because he does have this kind of surprise second in command, and he's going to make things a little bit more difficult, and he's a little bit trigger happy as well with whatever hostages remain once you've taken down the main abductor. Each abductor also has a starting threat level. The threat level is a measure of how successful you're being, how calm the abductor is. So this guy starts at level 4. We'll take a red cube and we place it here on this track, level 4. Okay. Now our aim is to try and reduce the threat, because once this guy becomes less of a threat and less aggressive, this S here represents save. We get to start saving hostages. If this threat meter goes up, then this guy gets a little bit more angry, more and more angry, until he starts killing hostages. Alright, so our aim is to manage this level. There's also a number of dice indicated on this threat track, so while you're at S and 1, you can be rolling 3 dice for what we call threat checks. We'll come to that when we see gameplay. We start rolling 2, and then as things get more severe, we only get to roll 1 die. And more dice we have, the more chance we have of successfully negotiating with this abductor. The other tracker we'll need is this blue cube, and it starts down here on this kind of telephone blue zeroid spot. And this is our currency in the game. We can earn conversation points. So as we get the conversation going, this goes up, and this allows us to buy more cards. Again, I'll demonstrate this in play. And that's where you may feel there's a similarity with deck building, because this is like the currency. You buy more cards, but they don't go into a deck that you then have to reshuffle and deal hands from. No, what happens is each turn you get a certain number of conversation points to spend that you've earned through playing cards. But all the cards that you play go back to the common pool, and then you will buy a new hand using your conversation points, and that will be your hand for the upcoming turn. So there's no deck, there's no draw deck in this at all. Our starting hand is all the 0 cost cards. There's 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can start with, and they got these little speech bubbles up here. What are your demands? Keep cool. Small talk. Alright? And each one of these cards can either increase your conversation points, giving you the power to buy more effective cards, or they could adjust the threat level. Each abductor also begins with some starting demands, and there may be some special rules associated with them that kind of makes them behave a little bit differently to the norm. Arcane is nice and simple. He has no special rules. We follow the basic rule book. But he starts with 1 major demand and 1 escape demand. These are the major demand cards. There's 3 for Arcane. There's 3 for Donna, but Edward only has 1. Okay, he only has 1 major demand, and that's his medical care for a loved one. Donna she wants to use to fire the leadership, wire $10 million, or a 10-year award. Arcane, he wants a supply of weapons, release fugitives, his compatriots, or wire $10 million. But which major demand is going to be in play, we don't know. So we're going to give him a shuffle up. It says here that his starting demand is 1 Arcane major demand. So we'll place this here. And also 1 escape demand. So this might be like a bus, a helicopter, an armoured truck, or secret passage. So again, Arcane starts with 1 escape demand. So we'll randomly select 1. These unused ones will all go back to the box. Next we need to take these terror cards and give them a good shuffle. These are the events that drive the game along. There's a good stack of these. There's 21 here that came with the base prototype game. We're only going to need 10 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The rest go back in the box. So there's going to be quite a little bit of variability here. And then there's also these pivotal events. The game comes with 6. We only need 1 of these. Okay, so right at the end of the game, this is like a timer. If we get through this and we haven't succeeded, then we lose the game. This is our timer. This goes at the bottom, and we're going to be drawing these each turn. Finally, we have our conversation cards. So this is our starting hand, the 6 0-cost cards. These, the rest, are cards that we can buy. And we're going to sort those into like an offer, an available area. There's 16 of these cards. 5 of them have 2 of each card. And then 6 of them, there's only 1 instance of those cards. Now, one of the things I love about this game is that it does have a very small footprint until you set up this available area. But what you could do is just keep that into a single stack of cards. And that's it. And now we're ready to play. Remember our aim. We've got to rescue or save more than half of the hostages. There's 7 here, so we need to try and save at least 4. If if more than half get killed, we immediately lose the game. So if 4 get killed, we go here. There's different ways that hostages can get killed. Terror cards, but also some of these conversation points. If we say the wrong thing and he takes it the wrong way, this icon here means he will kill a hostage. The other way that hostages can get killed is if this threat level goes up so high it hits the K. Now, if the threat level should rise, instead of rising the threat level, he starts killing hostages. To save hostages, again, it's exactly the same way. We can use cards. So these icons here, this conversation, if it goes well, will save 2 hostages or possibly 1. And again, if the threat level gets very low and we hit this save point, should the threat level lower any more, it can't go any lower, and instead the abductor starts releasing hostages. Okay, so those are the 2 main ways, as well as these event cards, which are kind of a little bit more, unpredictable. A turn consists of the conversation phase. We have a conversation with the abductor. We're on the phone, we're negotiating. Once the conversation ends, then you have the spend phase, and that's when we spend any of these conversation points that we've earned during the conversation to buy new cards for our next turn. Once we've completed conversation and spending, we move to the terror phase, and this is where we play one of these cards and we enact whatever it says. So let's start and see what we can do with the conversation phase. We can play these cards. These demands are interesting because some of the terror cards will require that you have an awareness of what the abductor's demands are. At the moment they're face down, we don't really know what his demands are. So let's have a look. Let's try and start with, what are your demands? Okay, if we get 2 successes, we can reveal a demand and earn 2 conversation points. If we only get 1 success, we can reveal a demand or 1 conversation point. If we don't succeed, then the threat level goes up 1. Okay, so that's what that card means. Well, how do we roll for successes? Let's play the card. And having played the card, we have to do what's called a threat roll. And here we look on the threat track. We're currently here at 4, and it shows us we're next to 2 dice. That means we get to roll 2 dice for the threat roll. We've got a maximum of 5 dice that we can use throughout the game for any threat roll. We only get to use 2 at the moment, and there's going to be different cards or effects that modify the number of dice we roll. And we roll the dice. Every roll of a 5 or a 6 is considered a success. We've got 1 success, we've got a 5. 1 to 4 is a failure. So with our 1 success, we can reveal a demand or get +1 conversation point. Now as it goes, I'm not quite happy with that. I really would have liked 2 successes. And I've made a pretty good roll as it goes, because there's one thing you can do with a 4. If we look at our conversation cards, on the back, there's these icons. And what they say is, instead of playing a card face up and doing its threat roll and earning these rewards or taking the penalty if we fail, what we can do instead is that we can play 1 conversation card face down and immediately just gain 1 conversation point. No dice rolling, guaranteed 1 conversation point. Okay? The other thing we can do is, if we play 2 cards face down, it says 2 here, we can turn any 4 into a success. So I can play 2 cards and call this 2 successes. I can make this 4 a success. And that's where the strategy starts to come in, because you have to say to yourself, well, can I afford to lose some of these cards and play them face down? Alright? And that's real good. Already we're making decisions. We're on turn 1 and we've got decisions to make that are important decisions and drive our strategy. Okay? So although things are firing along nice and quickly, we're having to, contemplate the cards we've got. Do we want to try and roll for their effects, or do we want to use them face down? Now as it goes, I'm going to use them face down. So I've got 2 of these what are their demands, so I'm going to place 1 face down, and I think I'll get rid of a keep cool, place that 1 face down as well. So 2 face down cards played to the table makes that 2 successes. So now I get to reveal a demand and gain 2 conversation points. So which one should we do? We can choose either one. Let's take the escape demand. And it says that Arcane is looking for a helicopter. It says we can spend 4 conversation points to concede during any conversation. Remember, we're in conversation right now. We've just asked him, what's your demands? And if we concede and say, yes, okay, we'll get you a helicopter, until the end of the conversation, we can roll an additional 2 dice during our threat rolls. But the penalty for conceded is the abductor escapes at the end of the turn with the helicopter. Now, we don't want this guy escaping, because if he escapes, we lose the game. Alright? So, this one is an escape demand that we only want to play, potentially, during that final push to capture or eliminate Arcane. So now we know what he wants. We earn those 2 conversation points. We push this tracker up to number 2. And then we can continue the conversation. What I like too is that there is some flavour text down here that kind of says what potentially you are saying. Well, here we are. You hold all the cards. Tell me what you want. So there's a little bit of flavour here to embellish the theme. Right, we've got a few more cards. Now we don't have to play any more cards here. We could end the conversation here if we wish. Right? We know what his demands are. We're going to stop the conversation. Let's move on. Or we can continue the conversation by playing more cards. Right, let's carry on with some small talk. So tell me, do you have family? I've got a wife and 3 kids myself. All boys. They're everything to me. Right, so we're making some small talk here. And we need now to make a threat roll. Threat level's still 4, so we roll 2 dice. This time we've got 1 success and 1 2. There's nothing I can do with that one. It's not a 4, so I can't turn it into a success. I've got 1 success. That's pretty good, because that earns me 2 conversation points. I go from 2 up to 4. At this point, again, I can continue the conversation if I wish, or I can keep some cards in hand. I'm going to keep some cards in hand, because if I keep spending, all the cards that I've played are going to be unavailable for me for the next turn. The only cards I'll have available are ones that I buy with my 4 conversation points. So I'm going to end the conversation there. Now we move into the spend phase. Well, I've been looking through these, and I think I've made my choice. I've decided to spend 2 on Just Stay Calm, which is one that's going to lower the threat, and 2 on Just a Few More Minutes, which is going to potentially increase the number of conversation points I have for next time. So I'm happy with those 2, and that costs 4 conversation points. And these will get added to my hand. Now these cards, these will then be available to buy on the next spend phase. Okay, I can't buy these in this spend phase. These are the cards I played this turn. They're sitting here in the player area. Once I've completed the spend phase, I've got no conversation points left, I can take these and put them back over here, ready for the next spend phase. Now remember, these are the 0 cost cards. So even if I have no conversation points for next time, I can still pick these guys up again. Alright, so there's always a chance that you've got some cards for an upcoming turn. Okay, that spend phase completed. Now we move into the terror phase, and all we do here is we reveal the top card from the terror deck. And it says the situation is worsening. The threat level goes up by 1. So our threat's going up from 4 to 5. Now, the situation is worsening also has this secondary effect. It says if there's any unrevealed demand, there is this one. And this is why I say this is important to understand the abductor's demands early on, because of these after effects. If there's any unrevealed demand, the threat goes up by an additional 1. Okay, so now the threat's up at 6. That's this turn over, and then we can begin a new conversation. Okay, let's go through this again. I really want to get that threat level down, so I'm going to try Just Stay Calm. This is a good one. Just Stay Calm. It needs a threat roll. We're still at the 2 dice point on the threat track, which is well, just about. So that's good news. And we got 2 successes. That's a great roll. And that means for 2 successes, the threat goes down by 2. Excellent. I was kind of hoping it would be down there. Let's see what we want to do next. Why don't we try keep cool? Let's try and get that down even further. We'll do another threat roll. And it's just one success. We've got a 5 and a 3. So that's okay. The threat level goes down 1, but we don't get that extra conversation point. Let's play small talk. So tell me, do you have wife, kids, and so on? Right, so it's 2 dice. And this time we got 2 failures. And I've only got 1 card, so I can't turn that 4 into a success. But that's not so bad. If we don't get any successes, we follow this part. We get 1 conversation point, just for having the chat. But this icon says the conversation must end here. I can't play any more cards. So that's conversation over. I've got 1 conversation point to spend, but I'm certainly going to grab back all the 0 cost cards. And let's see, what do we got that costs just 1? It's what I meant was, so let's grab this one. Okay. And now we move back into the terror phase. I've got quite a big hand for next time. We're back to 6 cards. Let's see what we get. Okay, this is a good one. This is a minor demand. Again, a lovely little addition to the game, and I think this is a neat little design trick. Remember, there's 2 types of demands up here. We've got our escape demand, the one that if we concede to will allow the abductor to escape, and the major demand, which we've not revealed just yet, but we will do soon. The third type is these minor demands. So what this means is Arcane has suddenly come up with a new demand. In this instance, Arcane is asking for some media coverage. And if we wish, we can seed this during any conversation, remember, during the conversation phase. And if we concede it, we can take any card from the available area into our hand. No conversation points required, but the penalty for conceding is the threat level goes up by 2. Now these minor demand cards are a great addition to the game because it gives you some versatility in your strategy. They can kind of pull off that kind of clutch effect that you need just at the right moment to just tip things in your favour. Alright, so that's kind of keep that there. You don't have to concede it. You can just sit there for the whole game if you don't want to concede to that demand for media coverage. So this is how the game will continue. We'll keep buying cards, playing cards. If we look at some of the more expensive cards, I mean, if you can get this guy and get more conversation points, then you can start doing stuff like minor extraction here. 2 successes will allow you to save 2 hostages. A failure and a hostage will get killed. An empty promise gives you 2 conversation points and extra dice for the upcoming roll. A failure here will give you 1 less die and a hostage gets killed. You need to trust me. We'll give you until the end of this conversation. All 4s will be successes. 1 success. Next threat roll, all 4s will be successes. A failure, you get an extra conversation point, but the threat roll goes up. A bold lie will lower the threat, but it's risky. If you fail, then the threat's going to go up by 3. Major extraction, 2 successes gives you 3 rescued hostages. The threat does go up by 2, and then you have to end the conversation. 1 success, same, but you only rescue 2. This one, if you fail, get no successes, 2 hostages will get killed, and the conversation ends with the threat going up by 2. This is the 2 most expensive cards. Sniper, take a shot. It costs 7 conversation points. 2 successes will eliminate the abductor and you will rescue 2 hostages. Now remember, if there's any hostages left after the abductor is eliminated, then the abductor is replaced by second in command. It says, special rules, replace the abductor card if the abductor is eliminated and hostages still remain in the pool. Every time though, with this guy in, that the threat level goes up, one hostage will be killed, and you can't eliminate this guy. Okay? But he does immediately surrender when there's no hostages left in the hostage pool. So it kind of changes things up slightly for that end condition. Finally, the most expensive card costs 8 conversation points. All units get in there now. You can rescue 4 hostages. The abductor will be eliminated if you get 2 successes. 1 success will rescue 3. Threat goes up by 3. The conversation ends. But if you fail, and this is where this one's risky, the abductor escapes and you lose the game. So that's Hostage Negotiator. I really like this one. I would recommend you taking a look at the Kickstarter campaign. I'm interested to hear what stretch goals come up, whether there's any extra cards, extra abductors, maybe some custom dice would be an option. I don't know what's going to be on that campaign yet. Look out for it. It gets the Box of Delights seal of approval.